Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm hoping that you're enjoying the networking and you're starting to get the hang of it. And we'll have more networking after this last session, which is commercial status around the globe. Tom Miles is up here and he is our moderator for the session. So Tom, I'll just go ahead and hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. Welcome to the commercial status around the globe. The intent of this session was to give us a snapshot in various parts of the world. We have 5 presentations. One from Don Coyne, recorded video. He's the executive director, as many of you know, of the Australia-New Zealand Biochar group. And one from Veronica Kitty. She is an IBI board member, and she is with ASA Initiative in Ghana. Will talk to us about biochar in Africa. Harold Beer from the European Biochar Industry Consortium will give us an update on Europe. Brenton Ladd, who's also an IBI board member, is from the University Científico del Sur in Lima, Peru, and will give us an idea of Latin America. And I'll wrap up with an overview of what's going on in North America. So Caroline, are we prepared to run the Don Coyne video?
Just load it up. And for those that were having an issue with the video last time, please just refresh your browser. I think for a lot of people that worked once the video goes up. All right, just one moment. Let me fix this. Tom, maybe it's best to move on to the next presenter while I'm working on this video issue.
Okay, can we jump to Veronica Kitty? Veronica, are you ready to present? Good, here you are. Please go ahead. Up. We're having some audio problems. Okay, very good. Looks like you're ready to go.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Veronica Agodua Kitty. I'm from Ghana. I work for the ASA Initiative and on the IBI board. We'll be looking at the aspects of biochar market variables, biochar biomass availability, biochar systems market stage in Africa, strategies used by existing market entrants, and a summary. Aspects of biochar systems that has been commercialized in, as to look at the right picture. Africa, we have biomass across the whole continent. Technology that is deployed in a large scale. This technology is used in energy production and industrial use. Then for green charcoal and a carbon sink. As a carbon sink, the biochar is used for agricultural use, that's soil amendment, animal feed, and animal hygiene. Biochar market variables in Africa. We're talking about the biochar market variables in Africa. We're looking at biomass availability. Biomass is available across the whole continent, east, west, north, and south. We also have existing. Looking at if people are looking for alternative ways to address climate change in agriculture and food security. If we're talking about market means whether people have needs that will be addressed with a product. And in Africa, we have the existence of these needs. We also have waste management challenge because we have solid biomass, liquid biomass, and different kinds of biomass. Then also government's responsibilities to meet nationally determined conditions. That makes up what the Africa market variables are. I want to elaborate on the biomass availability. That's a condition for the biochar system to work as commercial status in Africa. We have empty palm bunches, which is at the processing center of the palm value chain. Then shells, also at the processing center of groundnut oil for sale and groundnut processing uses. For the empty palm bunches and the groundnut shells, they are abundant in the sub-Saharan section of Africa. As across the whole continent, rice is being cultivated, and the process, you have deposit of rice husks, sometimes being bent, and sometimes are in heaps of mountains across these processing centers. Then we have coffee huts around all the parts of Africa because coffee is a cash crop. And the processing centers, you have the heap of the coffee huts. Then we have cocoa producing regions also have cocoa huts as biomass. Then corn cobs crop also across sections of the African. And these corn cobs, they are in the process of the commercial farms and around small farms in the smallholder. So biomass concentration is around processing, industrial farms, scattered smallholder farms. There is plenty of information on biomass. Also account for the strategies that are adopted by in the continent. Biochar market is at early stage. So you see the characteristics of early market entry in Africa. With biochar market entrance using project-based approach throughout the African continent. That is to product offer. Apart from this, we also have technology deployment. I just want us to look at a few samples of market players. Ithaca Institute in Germany, for instance, is using research to final product approach in a collaborative effort. In 2020, a large demonstration project in Ghana to showcase the biochar potential and deliver scientific data for political and industrial decision makers. Biochar produce is milled, converted into liquid biochar-based fertilizer, and applied directly to the cocoa plant root zone through a novel injection technology, first in Africa. This is the research to final product approach. Biochar-based fertilizer production by the industry and the sales to cocoa farmers through the government is envisaged. There's use of biochar equipment for pyrolysis. Then the biochar made from is grounded and mixed with the liquid fertilizer. This is injected into the root zone of the cocoa, and this is a sample of what is being done in Ghana. Then a carbon sink into the farming system, extra income for the farmers, and the replication in other African cocoa regions, for instance, Ivory Coast, were envisaged. Well, different approach, which is the final technology or finished technology deployment. This is a strategic nature and nature. ProNature, after working several years in Senegal on small plants, the institution would large plant from next year, 2022, in the country. But the first site, the large plant, is located in Cameroon with investment of $10 million. 2,000 tons of biochar per year will be produced. Adopted by Pro Nature is that this plant is located near a large coffee processing plant. The first stage to enable suppliers, distributors, partners, and authorities to gain better understanding of the market model. So their production model is based on biomass storage, and the distribution model is networks, selling price, and logistics. And there will be market awareness. So Pro Nature will be working with agronomists to design and implement training programs for farmers and promotion campaigns to raise awareness about the biochar benefits. So these are the initial stages of every market in the Pro Nature model. There's a sample of the machine which I think most of you are familiar with the coffee as biomass. They plan to use other biomass because the equipment will take 15 to 30 tons of biomass per day. And the farmers will be trained to apply biochar. After their strategic goal is to run 50 of such sites and 1 million tons of carbon removed. Then let's look at a different approach by Warm Heart Market in Malawi, Kenya, and Ghana. This one is based on pit and barrel kiln methods to make biochar. This method depends on the kind of biomass that is being used. For instance, when stock is used, they use a pit kiln. And when corn cobs are used, they employ a barrel kiln. The local people are fully involved. Biochar in their animal feed to improve health, hygiene, and market value. Biochar is also applied to farm fields for food security and income. Biochar is then used or sold as green charcoal for cooking. So with this, we'll say that the market is basically on publicity and product trials. In summary, similar commercial efforts are on the African continent. The above sample activities to demonstrate market readiness for the continent. However, more marketing efforts and strategic collaborations are needed to achieve effective market goals.
Thank you, Veronica, very much. Excellent presentation. It's really been fun over the last several years to see the developments in Africa and see the excellent use of biochar and immediate results. In some cases, in some of the projects you've described, people who are making and using biochar are promoting and selling biochar as a technique to others with excellent results. So I think let's move to next to Europe. Harold Beer, or Harold, are you ready with your presentation? Harold is the Executive Director of the European Biochar Industry Consortium.
Very good feedback coming from you. Can you try your audio connection again? Start by muting yourself. Maybe try unplugging your headphones, actually. Oh, wait, that might have worked.
Okay, great.
That's good.
Thanks a lot. It's always something. So I'll try to share my screen. So you should be able to see it now. Okay, I'll start. I guess if there's anything that's not going right, just please tell me. So hello everybody, and thank you for having me and for the interest in the developments in Europe. I want to give an overview of recent developments of the business of biochar in Europe with a focus on use cases. Biochar has taken off in Europe just recently in the last 2 years or 3 years especially. But what is it? Why is that? And what are the drivers behind it? It is biochar is a highly interesting material and very versatile one that meets several demands of our current economy. But especially, it is the aim of reaching carbon neutrality. Companies want it, cities do so, and also the countries, or entire countries, and the European Union. Until 2050, the EU is aiming at an economy with net zero greenhouse gas emissions, and that inevitably creates the need for carbon sinks at scale. In fact, for about 850 million tons, if we succeed in reducing emissions by 85% compared to 1990 levels. As the biochar industry, we are convinced that we can provide a third of that, which equals to 255 million tons. And we think that we can provide that in less than 2 decades. We, that is these companies, our members, we've started with 7 just 2 years ago, and now we're at 40 and more are following. We're active in different fields in policy, market intelligence, communication, and we're working on industry standards, all in order to help biochar scale to relevant levels of carbon sequestration. We've published a white paper. It's called Biochar-Based Carbon Sinks to Mitigate Climate Change, and it's available on our website. You can download it, and I recommend that. And we've also elaborated a market analysis showing the development of the European biochar market, the dedicated production capacity, and what you see is just in recent years, this is growing tremendously, and even the growth is growing. So the 3 years accumulated annual growth rate will be 60% now, and just this year, we're almost at 90% of growth. So we've been promoting biochar as a negative emissions technology, and as most of you should be experts on this, I just want to give a very short explanation on how we think that this works. So we have biochar, biomass as an input material, all different types of biomasses. We have types of pyrolysis plants, and we produce syngas, pyrolysis oil, and biochar. While the first 2 at the moment are mainly combusted, the third one is helping us to create negative emissions. So this is the system. We have a production facility creating carbon neutral energy, certainly heat, and in many cases also electricity. And the solid fraction that is a product of this plant is creating negative emissions through high carbonaceous material. That's biochar, and that's used in different cases I will show. So in order to realize the growth we are aiming at, we need sophisticated production equipment. And within our membership, we have a couple of plant manufacturers that have produced 10, 20, and many more plants. And they can provide 7,500 to well over 8,000 running hours per year. So the production of biochar is not an R&D or laboratory thing. It is happening, and we can scale it. We have also different companies that are specializing in certain biomasses. Like here, for example, we have 2 installations that are focusing on the carbonization of sewage sludge, which also creates very interesting materials for different types of uses, including construction. Next level scaling is, this is one example where Syncraft is installing several units and combined to one power plant in Switzerland that would provide energy for 8,000 households. Well, this type of scaling is possible with different types of technologies, also with CTS, for example, and other actors. And another option is to just provide larger production facilities from the start, like this one, for example, of charcoal at ArcelorMittal in Belgium, where they use biogenic carbon as a reduction agent for steel production. So I had to hurry a little bit to get through this first half. Now we're coming to the biochar uses. What should we do with all this biochar that we're creating through the scaling of our industry? This is a key question, and this is also why I was invited to speak. So I'll try to give a little insight into recent developments into the European biochar industry, especially with a focus on uses. We all know the uses in agriculture, and I don't have to refer too much to that on that, because there are experts, they're better experts than me. For example, Claudia Kammann and Johannes Lehmann, they have spoken before, so I don't have to mention this if we have the authors of this study also present. But what I wanted to say is the positive effects of biochar-based materials in agriculture are scientifically proven. And just recently, I think this meta-analysis, this review of meta-analyses is just the document we need. At the EBI, we have also put a project into practice where we combine different resource streams, and we produce biochar and compost. We put them all together. We use biochar as a stable bedding in all the ways we have just seen in the different 7 systems in agriculture to optimize the resource flows and limit greenhouse gas emissions. But we're also working on non-agricultural uses, and especially because they're especially interesting because they offer a huge potential for carbon sequestration. Here, for example, we have used biochar in asphalt just by replacing 2% of the filler that is in the asphalt with biochar. We've reached climate positive implementation of this asphalt. And this is 1 year after, just a couple of months ago, where the first tests are showing basically no changes. So it's we've reached climate positivity, and we have no negative effects. The next steps are already in place, and there we're aiming at improving the qualities of asphalt also. Another use case that is great for scaling is concrete. Here we have an example of biochar-based concrete as an inner layer of a sandwich element that has been implemented by inter alia Skanska and Novocarbo. And this is just a couple of months ago where we have conducted the first industrial trial of load-bearing concrete, where all parameters are above average compared to the standard mixture of concrete, while we have substituted 15% of cement in the mixture. Here's an example of the carbon footprint. We see the carbon footprint of concrete. We have the 15% substitution of cement. We have the storage effect or capacity, the carbon storage of this climate additive, climate add. We have the recarbonization according to the IPCC, and this is the net negative effect of the whole system. So one of the biggest emitters of carbon dioxide worldwide turns into a climate saver, which is a very interesting development. But that is not all. We have been hearing about biochar-based plastics for years now, and finally we can show implementations at scale. For example, here at Audi e-tron centers, where Made of Air has installed facade elements. Another example of a member of ours is polypropylene, PP, with 20% of biochar, and they're aiming at 50% addition. They've been producing those potting pots just because they're very fine in structure and it's rather complicated to manufacture. So different types of forms are possible. Another member of ours, Carboganic, has produced biocarbon-filled FGFs. It's fused granulate fabrication compound, and they've used it for 3D printing, which I think is very interesting. I would like to have one of those chairs, and they're using 30% biocarbon for it. They also produced technical rubber filled with 25% or wood plastic composites, also with 25% carbon. So those material applications, those applications provide solutions in the field of additive manufacturing, mobility, electronic parts, or in construction applications. The range is really broad, and the applications are growing. Thank you. I had 10 minutes. I've exceeded it just slightly. I hope that is okay. Please visit us. You can write us. You can visit our homepage, and please follow us on LinkedIn because there we keep you updated. This is the rest of the presentation I didn't want to show. We'll keep you updated on LinkedIn also. Thanks.
Thank you, Harold. Thank you for an excellent presentation, and we appreciate the strong commitment of the European biochar industry getting together and making the commitment to make the industry grow. So thank you for your leadership. We look forward to it. We look forward to more news from Europe. So let's go to another area where biochar industries have collectively gotten together and created an industry organization, and that's in Australia. We have a video, which I understand the quality may be an issue, but we have a video from Don Coyne from the Australia-New Zealand Biochar Industry Group. We don't have audio, or at least I don't have audio, Carolyn.
Did it? Okay, let's do this. Don't write in the chat if you didn't have audio. Write in the chat if you did have audio. And if really no one has audio, then I might be out of options, and we might just have to share this video presentation over email. Oh, some are saying they do have audio. Okay, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna play the video, and if you don't have audio, refresh your browser, because then I think it will work.
My name is Don Coyne. Australia and New Zealand Biochar Industry Group is a cluster that will facilitate and assist companies, governments and institutions in the effective use and production. Good afternoon, everyone in the audience, and also thank you to the organisers of this event and to the IBI for inviting me here today to present on behalf of ANSPIC. My name is Don Coyne. I'm the CEO currently, and I've put this presentation together based on my experience at Biochar, who is a merchant of quality Australian-made biochar and wood vinegar, but also drawing from recent presentations from our 5th conference and our most active key members, which include Professor Stephen Joseph at the University of New South Wales, Nigel Murphy, our Chair and Director of Earth Systems with the Char Maker Technology, Peter Burgess, our Vice Chair and Director of Rainbow Beta with the Echo2 technology, Craig Bagnall at Cedar Group, who are developing novel part gasification and pyrolysis technology, and Andre Van Zyl at NPS World with their cold asphalt mix with up to 20% biochar in it. Also, a big thank you to Dennis Enright from New Zealand Biochar Limited for the New Zealand information, and Dennis is also a member of our executive board. So the ANSPIC business plan is in play, and our vision is Australia and New Zealand as global leaders in the sustainable production and use of biochar. Our mission is the Australia and New Zealand Biochar Industry Group is a cluster that will facilitate and assist companies, governments and institutions in the effective use and production of biochar. ANSPIC will focus and streamline biochar education, research, collaboration and commercialisation activities to provide better outcomes for the societies of Australia and New Zealand. Our performance KPIs, the overarching KPIs to assist the growth of the industry with the remaining points and actions to achieve that, which you can see there. ANSPIC needs to continue to monitor and assist the growth of the industry, and our next step is to produce a blueprint report for agriculture, stretching to non-agriculture, non-soil applications. Our last report that we did covering the size of the industry is the value of biochar and wood vinegar in 2019, and we do in that blueprint report aim to estimate the size of the industry, the number of producers, number of users, how many tonnes are sold per annum, the average price, current total economic value, and 2025 and 30 estimated values. So one of our main programs to help grow the industry is the commercialisation of our code of practice for the sustainable production and use of biochar in Australia and New Zealand, released just a couple of weeks ago at our conference. This will lead to carbon sink certification, which will generate ANSPIC income for ANSPIC, which in turn is poured back into industry development. So the current size of the industry from the report mentioned, and that is available to download on our resources page. And so Stephen estimated in that report and in his recent conference presentation that we are producing about 5,000 to 6,000 tonnes per annum now of biochar. And about 3,000 tonnes of this comes from Sincoa operations in WA, where Jarrahwood forestry residues are made into charcoal, and the fines for metallurgic processes and to produce 50 tonnes of silicon per year, and the fines are making it out into the field. This char is now called Kenko char, as the owners are Japanese, and its most famous use was the innovative WA who fed Kenko char to its cows and used dung beetles to bury it, as well as getting great results on his avocados. Our users report revealed that Doug got, for each tonne of biochar, is creating about approximately $1,700 net benefits to the farmer. And the original cost to him was $50 per tonne. It's now up to about $160 per tonne. My estimate, based on verified products that I'm aware of, I think it's more like between 6,000 to 8,000 tonnes per annum that's now being produced in Australia. Wood vinegar is estimated at 50 to 100,000 litres per annum. The current technology providers, so main technology providers into the current ANZ existing projects that we are aware of in Australia are pyrocal, biosolids, nutshells and green waste, carbon-powered mineral technology and products which use a combination of hardwood and softwood with minerals. Earth systems are using green waste and other crop residues. Energy farmers, grasses, mixed waste, rainbow beta, wheat also with energy farmers, straw, that sort of thing. Rainbow beta using engineered timbers. Note that also technology is being sold within the region itself, but also into Asia, Israel and Europe mainly, but also other countries as well. So current producers, we're aware of about 11 biochar projects in Australia, with the main producers that we are aware of being in Australia, once again, pyrocal, so that's the Logan wastewater treatment plant, the Whitten microbrewery and Jeffrey's compost. Carbon-powered mineral technology and products are in Tamworth, and there's plenty of room to expand there. Earth Systems now, their technology is producing in Victoria and Western Australia. Energy farmers have projects with Chevron and also NPS.world. Simcoa operations, as mentioned, Kenko Char in Western Australia. The Rainbow Beta with the Echo 2 is at the Hollowfresh Herbs in Bensonville. And some of you may have visited that in our 2019 study tour. And then Soft Agriculture in northern New South Wales produces a range of biochar activated animal feeds, but also compost and biofertiliser. The current uses in ANZ, so there are many end-use applications and markets emerging, but ones in order of popularity that we are aware of as a group are in Australia, once again, soil agriculture, so within the compost, animal feed and some broadacre, including pasture and biofertilisers to reduce leaching. So farmers in the Great Barrier Reef catchment areas now have nitrogen and phosphorus budgets they must meet. Horticulture, so orchards, that's Doug applying biochar using a road grader in his avocado orchard, and home gardens, landscaping, green roofs, mixed vegetables, vineyard, hemp, and for liming purposes. Also soil remediation, so PFAS contaminated soil, heavy metals in landfill, and also now being trialled for the overuse of urea in agriculture. Also parks, gardens, so arboriculture, street trees and lawns, sport and rec, golf courses and other sporting fields. Some of the non-soil applications are roads. They are being used both in hot and cold mixes. There's Andre at NPS.world in the Barossa Valley building one of his cold asphalt mix roads. And also activated carbon and carbon black markets. So as companies are trying to source fossil fuel substitutes. In New Zealand, production and use, so we're looking at between 4,000 to 4,500 tonnes, and the producers that we're aware of is a North Island sawmill producing the bulk of that, and it is classified as high carbon boiler ash. There was a company called Waste Transformation in South Island, but they're now reinventing themselves, calling themselves another name. Plus there's another 200 projects totaling 450 tonnes, and then various other medium to small producers with another 50 tonnes. The uses and Miles Cope there at Soil Pro New Zealand claims to have sold 5,600 k's from a stockpile of high carbon boiler ash in the 2021 period. The main uses for markets are vegetables, kiwi fruit, vineyards, various other horticultural and arable crop production and sport fields. So potential production by 2025, including the current and proposed project in the pipeline over the next 3 years, if they all meet expectations, our best estimate for increased production by 2025 is 45,000 to 50,000. or almost a 10-fold increase. Wood vinegar estimates 5 million litres, so that flows out mainly because of the Frontier Impact and Carnarvon Petroleum Group's joint venture looking to process 100,000 tonnes of biomass per annum, predominantly for green diesel, but also they're going to be getting biochar, wood vinegar and graphene. Other players coming online, Renergy has been as an arena-funded project in Western Australia in Polly, and they're looking to predominantly produce bio oil, but will have biochar as well. And then we have Roundwood Solutions, also in Tamsinilla, South Australia, using the Eco Remedy US technology, and that's predominantly for eco treatment of vineyard coasts plus biochar. Kochi oil do eucalyptus oil, producing biochar and wood vinegar now. Cedar Group have a pilot and will be scaling up in the next few years, focusing on green hydrogen with biochar. Hyroco, coming out of RMIT University, energy, hydrogen and biosolids biochar, with the first project touted for a wastewater treatment plant. So thank you. You can join ANSBIG. Just for more information on what we're about, go to ansbig.org. I'm John Coyne, and my email is execdirect@ansbig.org. If you have any further questions, please email me. And thank you once again to the IBI and organisers of this event.
So, very nice summary from Don. For those of you who missed it, they put on an excellent series of symposiums over the last couple of months, and have very good resources on their website. So they also introduced during this meeting, this last general meeting, they introduced their Australian Code of Practice, which is good reading for anybody in the business. So next, let's go to Latin America with Brenton Ladd. Brenton is a an IBI board member, active participant, professor at the University in Lima, Peru. Brenton, are you ready?
Yeah.
Good.
I most certainly am.
Carry on.
All right. Toda la pantalla. Compartir. And how are we, Tom? Am I full screen?
Good.
Are you there? Hello?
Can you hear me? You're good.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead, Brenton.
Yeah. Okay, so my name's Brenton Ladd. As Tom mentioned, I sit on the board of the International Biochar Initiative. And basically, I'm the representative from Latin America. So in addition to sitting on the IBI board, I work for a local university as a research professor. And so most of my time is spent focused on biochar research and trying to basically move it from academia out into the real world. So the information we've got on biochar in Latin America, most of it comes from the market survey that we are currently compiling, which has been financed by WACA, and the information has been compiled by an intern called Camila Aguaje. So I'd like to thank her for her efforts here. And as you can see from this graph here, we've sent out a request for information to lots of people. I think it's somewhere between 500 and 1,000 different people, different organizations. We've asked about their involvement or their engagement in the biochar space. And of those people that we questioned, 91 have responded. And as you can see from this graph, the majority of people working in the biochar space actually producing biochar are right at the beginning. So we're in Latin America. This is the first thing that I want to emphasize, is that we are well behind North America, Australia, Europe, Asia in terms of developing a viable biochar industry. the majority of the biochar production that is occurring in Latin America is small scale, experimental, and even the small scale stuff is basically feeding in to experimental trials. And this is really important because there's not a lot of confidence in new technologies. The potential end users of biochar, we need it. We need here in Latin America want to see evidence that it works in their own backyard, and there's a clear need for it. So I give this example of cacao cultivation here in Latin America, in Peru, in Ecuador, Colombia. We have significant problem. We've got some of the finest, highest quality cacao in the world. Peru is the center of origin of cacao, so there's massive crop diversity, and you've got like these ancestral varieties of cacao that are fine flavored, but maybe not so productive. But there's an important, these are sought after in the international market. The problem that we have at the moment is that there's been the European Union recently imposed a new limit for cadmium in cacao. Not only cacao, other products as well, grapes, asparagus, avocado. But it's really decimated the cacao industry in Latin America. So a lot of the work we've been doing is just setting up really simple meat and potatoes style experiments, comparing the effects of biochar versus other soil amendments and fertilizers on both yield and cadmium reduction in the cacao. And there's been really, really positive results. And so this is the first point that I want to emphasize, is that we have a burning need for biochar here in Latin America. In terms of potential for biochar production in Latin America, I personally think that it's enormous. This graph shows the feedstocks that the small-scale producers that I demonstrated in the previous graph are using to elaborate their biochar. And by and large, the messaging, I guess, of organisations like the IBI seems to have penetrated, because we're seeing the fabrication of biochar using organic waste streams. So we're not, it's not promoting deforestation. The people that are producing biochar are using sustainably sourced biomass. This is a positive signal, I think. In terms of potential, in Latin America, this is the area or the issue where I see a lot of potential. So unfortunately, in Latin America, the governance is often poor. The management of all forms of solid waste is far from adequate. So what we have at the moment is a situation where large flows of biomass are ending up in these informal landfills where they're inadequately managed. And so we have and they end up liberating potent greenhouse gases like methane, nitrous oxides. So we have a significant opportunity here in Latin America to improve our waste management and at the same time sequester large volumes of carbon. One of the most encouraging things for the potential of biochar in Latin America is when you consider waste management. There hasn't been much money invested in infrastructure or processes or systems for recycling waste in Latin America. So if you compare that with Europe or Australia, where already the governments have got solid laws, strong laws, where already there's been public and private investment in strategies to process waste, for example, composting plants. We don't have very much of that here. So biochar can enter in an open field, more or less. And so there's a lot of potential if we can, especially if we can leverage carbon finance to finance the growth of the biochar industry, there's going to be no issue with obtaining feedstocks. So I'm optimistic about the potential for biochar in Latin America. Firstly, because we need it. We've demonstrated unequivocally that it can remediate soils impacted by heavy metals such as cadmium, and so there's a clear need for biochar in Latin American agriculture, and this is important because I mean the agriculture is an important element of our economy here, but not only in terms of money, also it's a source of work for one of the most economically disadvantaged segments of the Latin American population. So ensuring the sustainability of agriculture in Latin America fulfills a number of important societal objectives. And then, as I mentioned in the previous slide, there's large volumes of waste that is currently being managed in a far from optimal manner. So there's significant opportunity to use biochar production to improve the management of that waste and mitigate climate change. The other important consideration for us here is the fact that biochar can be used as a substitute for chemical fertilizers. The research that has been described earlier in the day, the point I want to make is aligned with that. We know that we can't replace synthetic chemical fertilizers. There's simply too many people on the planet. But we do know that by combining biochar with chemical fertilizers, we can increase the use efficiency of those fertilizers and reduce the rate at which we need to apply those fertilizers. And that is super important for those of us that live here in Latin America, because recently, for all of the turmoil that we've seen with the pandemic disrupting supply chains, also in Peru, because we've had a change of government, the currency is devalued, and as a result, we've seen the price of synthetic fertilizers go through the roof. So the fact that we're so dependent on external imports, synthetic fertilizers imported from outside of Latin America to sustain our agriculture makes our agriculture extremely vulnerable. That's important, again, because it's an important source of revenue for the region. Latin America supplies Europe and Northern America during their winter times, so it generates inflow of capital, which is needed to build an infrastructure and lift the people out of poverty. But also, it's important to reiterate that a large section of the economically vulnerable section of the Latin American population depends on agriculture for their livelihoods. So this situation where the price of fertilizers is skyrocketing is simply a social economic catastrophe for us here. And with biochar, we have a possibility of mitigating this problem to some extent. Okay, so that's it. I've got nothing more. That's what I wanted to say today.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenton, for an excellent presentation, excellent characterization of biochar in Latin America, and we also appreciate, as with others, your contribution to the International Biochar Initiative Board. So we had attempted to get a presentation from China. Unfortunately, we're unable to do that. As many of you know, China is a large producer of biochar, primarily industrial biochar, biochar-based fertilizers, and we understand that there's something in the order of 500,000 tons of biochar-based fertilizers that are produced each year. We're getting short of time, but I will round up. We're going to run over a little bit, but I'll round up with a characterization of biochar in North America. And so I'll share my screen at this time. So you should be seeing my screen. Let me know if you don't. Business of Biochar, commercial status in North America. What I'd like to do is just to provide an overview of what's going on in North America, the types and levels of activities, and I'd like to do that by showing you who our biochar practitioners are. At the U.S. Biochar Initiative, we've been profiling practitioners in our newsletter each month, talk a little bit about biochar markets and biochar technologies. And of course, biochar markets and applications you've seen in other presentations. There's a long list of products that are being made and developed with biochar. In the agricultural side, in North America, the high-end agriculture, retail garden, landscaping, turf, trees, horticulture, and so on are probably the major markets, with biochars, biochar combinations of biochar compost, and some combinations of biochar and animal bedding litter. And environmental applications are emerging, revegetation projects, biosolids. There are a few biosolids plants. Water quality and stormwater filtration is another emerging area. In forestry, it's been mostly demonstration for wildfire fuel reduction. And of course, other activities such as non-soil products and carbon markets are also emerging. In terms of the scale and use of the current biochar feedstocks, we have large quantities, about equal quantities of forestry and wood waste in agriculture that can be applied to biochar. We see different applications of different technologies in different parts of the US. With regard to, on the West Coast, we see a lot of so-called boiler reinjection ash or high carbon fly ash, which amounts to 1 or 2% of the fuel that's put into a biochar boiler. If it's not converted to energy, can be recovered as biochar. We see a few gasifiers and installation in the south and west, some mobile burners in the west being demonstrated, about 30 of those, and some modular large-scale pyrolysis systems in the Midwest and the west. Agricultural residues are less used in the United States. There's some work with manures. There's development with regard to sugarcane. Could be a very large production of sugarcane-based biochar in the South coming on fairly soon in the next couple of years. A lot of interest in things like manures, hemp, cannabis, rice husks, and so on, but so far not much production. Again, municipal biosolids. We have plants in about 4 states, and using both pyrolysis and gasification systems, and they're emerging. When some of the people that are doing the work in the urban landscape, we have organizations like Brett Kincairn here with the city of Boulder, with the Urban Drawdown Initiative, organizing, looking at a variety of methods for decarbonization. We're proud to see the level of activity in the city of Minneapolis. Jim Doughton, Environmental Services Supervisor, is been using biochar to be produced by the neighboring Shakopee, Metawankan, Sioux tribe, and in combination with their compost, he's been using it in public works in a lot of different ways. In urban landscapes, an example is Mark Hyland, Organic Mechanics in Pennsylvania, has used biochar amended soil amendments in places like Rockefeller Center. In particular, in the cities, biochar shows its value by creating good establishment of trees and tree survival. So we see an increased of use of biochar in urban tree care. This was Bartlett tree experts who did a lot of the pioneering work, but we see more and more arborists around the country that are discovering that biochar blended in with their planting media or in repairing the roots and so on is valuable. We're also seeing an increased use of biochars in urban soil repair in looking at solving problems of compaction, drainage, aggregation, and filtration. Another group of people working in the garden products and also commercial horticultural area. One example, Tony Marrero, Wakefield Biochar in Illinois. They're about to build a plant using the VOW or VOW technology, the biogreen technology. They've done a good job of developing products specific to really specific to urban kinds of markets. Stan Slaughter or Missouri Organic Recycling found that using biochar in their compost operation allowed them to incorporate more food waste as a nutrient source. and produce a quality of biochar that they are compost, biochar amended compost, that they can sell for about twice the price of their regular compost. And Stan's been a great educator spreading the word of biochar in the organic recycling and compost community. We also see products like the Anderson's Humate product or the American Biochar Company Vital Soil Blend using biochar as a carrier for nutrients. As far as biochar carbon co-products, power plants that are producing high carbon fly ash, you can actually make a very good high quality char from high carbon fly ash. A couple of examples here: Josiah Hunt Pacific Biochar in California has done an excellent job of blending biochar with different other components and solving people's problems. He's got a very good understanding of the needs of agricultural folks in the Central Valley. Carl Stroll of Oregon Biochar Solutions, same kind of thing. They make a very good quality biochar that actually flows. They call it rice grain-like. Works very well in nursery growing media. So these people are plowing the way, developing markets in agriculture and also in things like stormwater filtration. Here's a contractor on the left-hand side that is using biochar in a no-till drill, using it for improving pasture in combination with organic fertilizers. And a contractor on the right calling biochar as a change agent, using a manure-based biochar in the Midwest in no-till drills. A lot of biochar in the Southeast comes from these gasifiers that are used to gasify sawdust and convert heat for drawing southern pine lumber. An example of its use is on the right-hand side in the turf product, Lesco Carbon Pro product, which is made both in granulated and a liquid form. So we have innovative pyrolysis systems like those that Harold showed, VOW, Pyreg, and so on, working particularly in biosolids where you have high disposal costs and problems of disposal. Other gasifiers, EarthCare on the left, doing manure and so on. They've got about 14 plants. Eco Remedy emerging with 2 or 3 plants doing both manure and biosolids. So we have, I think, well advertised and well-known fire danger problems, especially in the west of the United States. As a consequence of that, to meet that need, we have the carbonator here on the right-hand side, a mobile carbonator, recovering biochar from basically burning slash piles efficiently. And in the center, there's a development system from air burners that the Forest Service is working on in collaboration with air burners to develop char from forest residues. Modular systems like this modular pyrolysis system from Artichar are interesting in the sense that you can put a pyrolysis system down on a slab of concrete and possibly run it for a few years and move it on. They've been doing a good job with product development. And there are smaller scale systems like a 2 megawatt power plant on the left, this Ag Energy small heat and power system in the middle, and a combined heat and power system on the right. So once again, we are growing in the United States, but slowly. We don't unfortunately have the energy markets that are available in Europe to be able to help biochar along and create combined heat and biochar systems. Nonetheless, we're seeing a substantial increase in activity on the biochar front with more and more companies becoming involved in the process. So we hope you will join us in Morgantown, West Virginia for Biochar and Bioproducts 2022. Thank you. So I think I can. So Caroline, I think that should be it for this morning's session.
Yes, that's correct. So that's it for today, other than our networking, which we will transition to shortly. The networking will be open for the next hour, actually. So please continue to use the event. You paid to be here. Please use it for your networking. And we'll be back tomorrow at the same time that we started today, which is 11:30 Eastern, 16:30 UTC. All right. We'll see you all tomorrow. Oh, go ahead.
One quick sec. Yeah. Caroline mentioned that some folks had requested or asked whether we can have table topics. And we're going to try to do that tomorrow. So if any of you have specific topics for a table that you would like to see, you can just reach out to info@IBI and we'll try to make that work tomorrow. So thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Kathleen. All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow and see you on the networking floor now. Have a great evening, everyone, or morning, wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.